I have the Twitter now, so my Twitter label is there. And I have a very long, old-fashioned surname, so I've added my email there, but if you're unable to make out what's happening there, come chat to me afterwards and we can have a little bit of a discussion and you can grab my details. Okay, so a little bit about myself. I am the youngest of 2 daughters. I am the tomboy in the family, which means I believe wearing matching socks is bad luck, so no matching socks for me today. I also have a guilty pleasure in collecting comic books and watching horror movies. And the other thing which I'm totally excited about, and where my biggest passion in life probably lies, is programming. I think it's really cool that I get to go to work every day doing what I love. Okay, so that is why I'm here today. Okay, I'm not here to throw statistics at you or to show you how good or how bad my coding is. I'm here to share my journey with you so far. Okay, my journey into the software world, my journey as to where it is heading, and the journey of which I want for myself in the near future. Okay, so the other thing I also really love is quotes. Love quotes. I feel like there's a quote for every single occasion. And while I was preparing this talk, I came across this beauty. And it's from Lemony Snicket, where he says, "What might seem to be a series of unfortunate events may in fact be the first steps of a journey." And something dropped. But that's okay, because you've now seen the quote. We know it's from Lemony Snicket, so let me tell you about my unfortunate events. How many of us remember our first day of school? Okay, that was quite long ago. Many of us have kids now. So if you remember your son or your daughter's first day of school, okay, or even your godchild or whatever, most of us kind of remember it. Okay, it was not wanting to let go of mom's hand, and you had all this excitement and you didn't know whether or not you should cry or if you should be happy because you're going to make new friends or whatever. And at the time, the moment you meet your big teacher and she's like, and you're like, this isn't my mom, and it becomes very scary, right? And it's very scary for those little ones. And then they kind of figure out it's not so bad, right? Like, it's okay, I got this, I can color in today, it's all going to be good. And then that kind of progresses. You go through primary school, and then you get to high school, which is where all your grade 7 teachers used to say to you, "Oh, look, you're going to be a small fish in a big ocean now." And you kind of go, "No, I'm not, I'm going to totally be fine." And you walk in there and you see rugby players the size of houses, and you start freaking out ever so slightly, right? And that is exactly what happened to me. So I kind of let my parents do the whole high school thing because I'm a kid. I don't need to worry about responsibilities. My biggest responsibility in the morning was, what porridge do I want today? So that's pretty much where it started and ended. And then you get to high school, right? So I had the unfortunate event of being a tree. Okay, so in most schools, they do initiation. And my initiation was being a tree. So the entire school got to know me as the tree in the background, which was great, right? Really good for the self-esteem. And it was great, right? Looking back at it now, it might have seemed like an unfortunate event, but it started a journey. Okay, and so, high school goes on, whatever. And then you get to grade 10, and now you start panicking, because now all your teachers are telling you the subjects you choose are going to determine what you do for the rest of your life. And as a 16-year-old kid, you're going, that sounds very serious. Am I in the right room? What? And you kind of contemplate. And that is exactly what I did. So I knew that I loved helping people. So growing up, what I wanted to be changed from being a princess to Batman very quickly, and then it became doctor, right? And I thought, okay, I'm going to be a doctor one day, And so I took biology and science, and coming from a family of bankers and people that love business, accounting was probably ticked off before that form even made it to the house, right? Which I wasn't too happy about. And I figured, I love technology. I play games in my free time. I didn't have a smartphone back then, but I just loved the idea of technology. And I thought, 7 subjects are not enough. No. I am going to take IT, and I'm going to prove everyone in my family wrong. And that is exactly what I did. I took IT as an after-school subject. And I loved it, and I enjoyed every single moment of it. And immediately my passion started growing for technology. Because I remember the first time I got my Windows 95 machine from my grandfather, right? And the only thing it could do was play putt-putt, and you kind of like had to start it up, and then, smoke signals, and then it like kind of switches on, and you wait half an hour for that to happen. And it was great, and I thought, that is a brilliant idea. And then unfortunately, you get to grade 11, and then the teachers tell you, yeah, this is where you go to university. These marks determine what good school you're going to get into from here. And you kind of go, once again, that sounds very serious. Why are we so serious in this place? And unfortunately, I couldn't maintain my average, so I had to leave IT. But it's okay, because I can still lie for a living, right? I can become a lawyer with accounting, or I can go into medicine and help people. It's fine, And that's exactly what happened. I turned my back on technology for a brief moment because I was told I wasn't good enough. And I figured, okay, cool, that's fine. And then I figured out by the time I was 18, I can drive a car. I'm not legal enough to drink yet, really. And I can make tons and tons of debt for a piece of paper. That idea didn't really sit well with me. I was like, nah, I don't really want to get into debt so soon. So I decided to go hunting, and I joined a local college. And I walked in there, and I was like, what is the most difficult subject you have to offer? Because I was placed in this bubble that if you don't get your degree or you don't get your high marks, you're not really going to amount to much. Because that's the reality that they feed us. Right? And they said to me, well, we have an MCSD course. And I said, well, what's that? And they said to me, it's a Microsoft Certified Solutions Developer. And I went, okay, I'll take it. That sounds like a good deal. Bad car salesman. It's all mine, I'll take it. And I walked in there, and I had the fear of failing all over again. I thought of my unfortunate event. And I figured, well, this is the first step of a journey. What I do here is going to determine how far I can go. And I remember walking in there, and we did what all programmers do when they learn something new, is they write Hello World. And that's exactly what we did. We started our first Hello World console program in C#, and I thought, oh my goodness, I have just created artificial intelligence. My screen is actually talking back to me with my name that I inputted. It was the coolest thing ever. And my passion just grew all over again. And I thought, okay, college is going good. I got this, It's a little bit shaky, but we got this. And then the reality hit that I enjoy food so much, so I probably need to get a job so that I can sustain my food habit, right? And that's exactly what I did. Started researching, and I went for my very first job interview. So in college, once again, you are placed in this bubble of this is how people act, this is what they do, this is real life scenarios, and it's okay, right? So I didn't really know what developers in the outside world look like, because my classmates, we all look pretty normal. And I figured, okay, wow, this is a big corporate building, so I probably need to hang up my skinny jeans and my Marvel shirts and dress like a lady. My parents were so proud that day. Right. And that's exactly what I did. I had the most uncomfortable shoes on, and I walked in there, and I did my interview, not knowing that these are the people that are potentially future employers, right? Like, you don't know what to expect from an interview. It goes 50-50. And I walked in there, and I had all the guts and all the glory. And they started asking me a few questions, and I felt very calm, and I thought, I got this. This is so easy. I was stressing for nothing. And then all of a sudden, the questions became a little bit more difficult, and then all of a sudden, they were talking a different language, and all of a sudden, I was in the wrong room. And it was okay, because I repeated a sentence to them. I think it might have been the adrenaline or the stress of it all, not knowing how much that is still going to apply in my day-to-day life today. And the sentence I constantly repeated to them was, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. Next question. I don't know, but I'm willing to learn? And I probably started sounding like a broken tape recorder. And I walked out of there, and I was so frustrated and so sad because I felt like I had failed. And then a couple of months later, I got the email to say congratulations. And I wanted to run around like a soccer player, shirt over the head, and you're just running around like crazy. And I got my very first job, right? And I studied C#, and that was predominantly what I was focused on, and it was mobile development. And they said to me, no, we're going to change that. We're going to give you an Angular project. I was like, what? I haven't, okay, we'll go with it, it's fine. And I fell in love with web development because I was willing to take that leap of faith, right? I was willing to take that steps into that journey. I was willing to make the change. I was willing to get out of my comfort zone and climb out of that bubble. 6 months later, because it was an internship program, went for an interview at the company where I work now and where I found home. And that's BBD, representing, okay? And that's BBD. And with that interview, I was a lot more calm because I've already had my unfortunate event and I've already turned it into a journey. And it was amazing, and the people were amazing, and the coffee was really good that day. Great coffee machines, right? And it was okay. And then I was placed into the mobile space immediately. And I was like, I don't like this. I can't do it. I said to myself that I can't do this because the pressure was too much or it might have been too demanding. And I kind of backed out and I said to them, whoa, I did web development earlier. That is, I kind of feel comfortable in the front end there. And that is exactly what I did, right? So there's my whole life story. So let's get to my journey, right? So for the current projects that I've faced, a lot of skills have been required from me in a short, limited time, which I think is great, because that's the only way you learn, is by taking off your wings and falling into the deep end, right? You don't have your floaty. You just fall in there and hope you don't drown, right? And that is exactly what happened. And something clicked. And I thought, okay, well, let me research what's going on here, because I'm not only doing front end, I'm starting to look at back end code, and I'm starting to look at different frameworks and things I have never even heard about. And I came off the terminology of a full stack developer, right? And now Google is very complicated for me some days, especially before coffee. So here's my definition of what a full stack developer is, right? It is someone that has familiarity in each layer, and I'm not talking about cake layers, right? I wish I was, but it's not. And it is someone that has a genuine interest in all software technologies, not just one. And then it is also someone that is familiar in the entire stack know-how. Two words there stand out for me, layers and stack. I didn't know what that meant. I'm going to be honest. I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, it looks cool. And I'll get to that in a moment. The one thing I want to pressure on is someone that has genuine interest across all software technologies, be it mobile, be it web, be it the radio in your car, whatever the case may be. You have to have a genuine interest. You can't just focus on the one thing. You need to force yourself to get out of your comfort zone and face those challenges, take off your floaties and fall into the deep end, right? I get to learn different pieces of technologies. Like, I didn't know what a Raspberry Pi was, right? I heard people talking about it at work, and I was like, oh my goodness, what is that? And I'm like, that is so cool, I'm going to buy one, and I did. And I turned it into a little media center after many, many months of crying. But it worked eventually, right? And that's the thing, because I took a genuine interest in something that I didn't know, right? So this is our journey. Well, this is my journey, right? And there's my map. And now I want to take you into grabbing your Dora the Explorer backpack and walk with me, okay, where I take you through the toolbox. Okay? A designer that designs homes, an architect, sorry, I couldn't think of the word now. An architect has a certain structure and a certain way of doing things. A doctor has got a certain structure and a certain way of doing things. And I think it is brilliant that we are in a career that doesn't limit us to that. Right? We're not going to kill someone if we accidentally pick up the wrong thing or write the wrong code, right? They might have a little bit of a heart attack, but they'll be fine, right? They might freak out a little bit, but they will be fine. They will recover. We are in one of the very few careers where it's okay to make a mistake. And that is something I had a hard time dealing with when I first started. I couldn't deal with the fact that my compiler was throwing an error. I was like, why is it so red? I don't understand. I did everything that Google told me to do, and it is still red. I don't get it. Oh, there was a spelling mistake. Okay, yeah, it works. And that is important. It's one of the few careers where a mistake is okay, and that we're not limited to a certain box. We place ourselves in that box. So let's grab our map, our toolbox, or our backpack, and let's get started on this journey, right? So I mentioned something earlier. It is someone with a familiarity in each layer. And I want you to think of the onion in Shrek, where it has layers, or a cake layer, right? Different things that make part of something else, the thingy-majiggy for the thingy-mabob that make something work, right? So let's get into that. So the first thing, I'm not going to say the first thing. You can order these in any way you want, because remember, this is my journey, right? So some of the layers we have is the hardware layer. Now to me, the hardware is the piece of the computer that I can kick when something doesn't work, right? Or I can punch through my screen. or whatever. The only thing I know about hardware is that if my games don't work, it means my graphics card is probably out of date. It's the most I know about hardware. I walk into the office in the morning, I have my coffee, I kind of wake up a little bit, I plug in my keyboard, my mouse, and my screen, and I get going. That is the most I know about hardware. And somehow that's not enough, right? Even though, when the joke where they ask how many developers does it take to change a light bulb, and they go, none, because it's a hardware problem, we should stop having that mindset, right? And it is a very difficult mindset to change, right? So know about your server hardware or your network protocols. Know what type of hardware your application is going to be running on. Because that's what we do, right? We change lives. We make a difference through the applications that we write. If I can write an application for someone that is in primary school to make sure that she has all her books and she doesn't have to somehow strain her back carrying all those heavy science books, I'm making a difference. If I can write a piece of software that can help my grandmother navigate from her house to the grocery store without fuss, I've made a difference. If I can write a simple website for myself to schedule all my meetings without needing Outlook and it automatically just reminds me wherever I am, even offline based, I've made a difference. Because that is what software development is about to me. It's about taking an idea and forming it to make a difference, whether it influences a person or whether it influences thousands of people. But we are still making a difference. And then we have operating systems. And then we all know that guy who created an operating system like a DOS. There we go. Right. I have been a Windows baby for a very, very long time. And I think the Windows operating system is probably the one that's predominantly everywhere. Every single bank uses them in their framework. Some of them, you kind of walk into a place and people are still using XP and you're like, so much respect right now, right? And then I had the opportunity, because I had a tech lead that introduced me to a different operating system. So an operating system was like, okay, cool, I have Windows and I have my Android phone and I have an Apple phone, which I cannot afford, so I'm going to go back to Android, right? And I was okay with that. And then this world got opened up where there's different operating systems. The operating system I'm currently preferring to work on now is Linux. I get to do things in terminal and it just works, and I think that is so cool without the fuss, right? npm install, get sudo, and it works. And then I've also seen these really fancy people in the office, which I still don't get. They have a Macintosh. And as they take it out their bag, lights just turn on and you hear angels singing in the background and you're just like, yeah, still can't afford that, right? And they still create amazing pieces of software, no matter the operating system, right? So find one that works for you. Find one that works for you. I was tasked with hosting something a couple of weeks ago. So my tech lead came to me and he said to me, right, we have this thing that we need to build. That's very specific. But before we can start building, we need to look at how we can host it. And I go, can't we just, give it to the fancy people and then all of a sudden it's magically on the cloud or whatever and people download it and it just works? Because that's the position I'm in as a junior, right? I write the code, it gets approved, and somehow down the manufacturing line, I get to go home, click a button, and it's downloaded. But how does that happen? Right? I had no idea. I thought there was magical pixies flying around, just making it work somehow. And he said to me, no, we need to figure out where our app is going to be hosted. Right? And I was like, okay, can you give me an example of what you want? Because I still don't know what you mean. And he goes, okay, have a look at Heroku, have a look at AWS, have a look at Azure, have a look. And I was like, okay. And I started researching. I immediately got out of my comfort zone and I Googled the definition of hosting so that I knew what he meant. And then I started looking at how I can start hosting. And within half an hour using AWS, I was able to deploy a small service, test it. It was just a simple thing. And it worked. And I was amazed at it. I was like, I know all the AWS things, right? Because when he first said to me, no, use Amazon, I'm like, but I don't need to buy shoes right now. Oh, Amazon Web Services, right? Still don't know what you mean. And it worked. And I felt so proud of myself that from an HTML, CSS background creating websites, I am able to deploy that somewhere now by myself, right? And I am able to help other colleagues of mine understand how we did it. And I was able to knowledge share with my team. I was able to get them out of their comfort zone, right? Databases. Who here likes databases? I think databases are pretty cool, right? But the last time I worked with a database, it was in college and it was MySQL. Pretty simple. I had a book and I could just follow the book and it was easy and it was simple. And then my tech lead came to me and went like, okay, cool, we've got our host and we have everything we need. We need a database in Mongo. And I go, Mango, yeah, I'd love one. And he goes, no, Mongo. And I go, oh, what's Mongo? And once again, I got onto the Google and I researched, and it probably took me a whole day with all the frustration and all the installations and all the different tutorials. And I was able to write a database using MongoDB. And the scary thing was coming from a relational database background into a non-relational and how that differs. So just by trying something new, even though it was, I won't say expected from me, but because I had to do something and I had to do it quickly, I researched all the things. And now, when the database is updated, we prepare for glory because we know it's going to work. Because it's set up that way. Because we went through the struggle. We did everything we needed to do, and we did it on time. And once again, we got out of our box. We started a journey into databasing as a front-end developer. And now I get to say that and not feel like I don't know what I'm talking about. And then here comes the programming languages. Okay, I don't have any, I think I took the most common ones because I don't want to be thrown with a tomato should I mention a programming language that a lot of people don't like, right? We have Java, Go, JavaScript, C#, HTML. And like I mentioned earlier, when you learn a new programming language, you totally feel like a software engineer. When that hello world renders, and it renders without bugs, without issues, and it works with your test cases, you know you got this. Until you try something else and it doesn't work. But for that brief moment, you are a software engineer. Right? The word I'd like to use here is polyglot. Who here can tell me what the meaning is of polyglot, except Mike? I don't mind, you can go onto Google, that's cool. Yes? Absolutely. It is someone that uses multiple languages. And that is quite interesting because how many of us have used multiple languages together, right? I'm going to throw this at you. If I happen to hit you in the eye, I'm really sorry. I'm not very good at sport. Close enough. Yay. Okay. Right. Now, I've never had to use multiple languages at the same time. I know that if I write a website, I have my HTML, my JavaScript, and my CSS. That's about as far as it goes. Like, that's the line, right? I know that I'm predominantly going to use those three, and I might be using them at the same time if I'm in a good mood, you know, 2 different screens and it looks like I'm in the matrix and I'm just, you know, owning it. Or I might be doing some C#. And it is great because I'm accustomed to those languages. I'm used to those languages as the languages that I studied and the languages that I feel comfortable with. What happens if I get thrown a curveball and I need to code something in Java? Or I want to learn how to code Java. Or I hear everyone talking about this Java thing and I know that they're not meaning coffee. Because I have now learned my lesson that not everything is about food. I need to take that step into becoming a polyglot. I need to take that leap and kind of get out of my comfort zone. We have a lot of debates on what programming language is the best to use for a certain task. Because it's what we're used to, and it's what we know. If we can try something else or learn something new and have a different opinion for a change, our code will immediately be different, and the difference we will be making will be so much larger. And then we have the frameworks. Now the hype is strong with this one, because it changes like some people change socks on a daily basis. Right? If you hear there's a new framework out there and you've got to grab it and you've got to be the best at it. So these are the two that I mostly use, AngularJS and Angular 2, because once again, that's where I'm comfortable. And it's really scary to research a new framework because I know it's just going to throw me off from what I've just learned 5 minutes ago. Because poop, new framework, it's like, so those annoying emails you get, that's spam. That's kind of like what a framework is to me. It just spams constantly, new framework, right? And then we get to another piece of the puzzle when creating an application. And that is our front-end design, guys. Now this is what most front-end designers look to me. They have their open-ankled shoes and their jeans are kind of a little bit rolled up and they always have the coffee and they have their very slim Macintosh and the very big nerdy glasses and they are just owning life, right? Because I can't draw at all, so that's why I say they are owning life. Like you can give me a pencil and a ruler and I wouldn't be able to draw a stick man. So for me to go and design a front end for an application is probably not a good idea, right? I don't know a lot about colors. I can give you the hash codes of some colors, triple F, that's pure white. It's background, yes, that works, yes. Right? But these people, although they might seem so annoying at times, they are a key element to your application. How many of us have downloaded an application and then immediately removed it because we didn't like the way it looked? I'm going to be honest, I have. If you are not going to capture me by the way that it looks, I'm not going to be interested in using it. And I think that is something we tend to forget. It's very simple to use Bootstrap. Plug it in there. It's very simple to make a Windows Form app. All the buttons are alike and everything looks alike. That's great. But it becomes boring for a user, right? So the people that use Photoshop and that know the UI and that know the UX, they're there for a reason. Go to them. And from your perspective, if you happen to get a screen design of the next thing you need to build as a front-end developer and you are not liking what you are seeing, change it. Go to them and say, I wouldn't use this. Because if you know in your heart you wouldn't, why would you put it on an application? Because you need to be proud of that thing you're going to ship at the end of the day. That blood, sweat, and tears are worth it. And you're not going to let anything like a bad UI stand in your way. And then we get to the amazing part, which is the back-end developers. So the front-end developers tend to live in a unicorn world. Everything is perfect and pretty, and the coffee is always warm, and everything just smells so good, and it's so great. And then the back-end developers, they are the people that, to me, probably enter the matrix more than what's healthy for them, right? Like, they, to me, are like the men in black, like they have their suit and their tie, and they just look like they have got life by the balls, right? They have their suitcases, and they have their shiny shoes. Not too businessy, though. Like, they don't particularly look like a scary business person, but they are just, they're the big rugby player you saw when you started high school, right? Like, these are the people that are just like, they are gods in my eyes, right? And I had the opportunity of being one. I got to create horrible code too. Okay, which was quite good. I was tasked to write a Node backend service. I had no idea what Node was. I had no idea. I went to the relevant people, asked it for assistance. I asked questions, and I kind of got it started. And I was able to test it, and people came back to me, and they told me they have no idea what I did, but it works. And I went, I also have no idea what I did, but it works, so it's fine. Let's not fiddle. Just back away slowly, and there's sirens in the background, and it's okay, right? And another really cool thing is I didn't know that you could do your backend in JavaScript either. That was new to me too. Because I was so in my bubble of being a front-end developer, I was happy on my unicorn. We have a good relationship, and then all of a sudden I had to go underneath to the sea of monsters, and it wasn't so bad. I met Aquaman down there, right? It was brilliant, it was great. And then we get to my heart and soul, which is the front-end developers. Now these people aren't just there to make the PowerPoint presentation you receive from your screen designs to work on a website. That is not what we do. And if you think that's what we do, I challenge you to spend a day in our shoes, right? It is so simple to float everything to the left, give something a padding, and your whole screen jumps out of shape, right? That happens, it's not a joke. And then you don't know why that happens, and you've got browser tools open, and you're trying to figure this out, and It is frustrating, and it is meticulous, and it is perfect. Right? The unicorns found here are brilliant. Right? Front-end development is something that is very dear to me, because you can give me a screen design from the front-end guy, and you can give me a node service, and I can use a button to make the two come together. That is what I do. I put the puzzle pieces together. I'm not outsurance, I'm not the middleman cutting out the middleman. I am the middleman, right? I am the middleman. And then we get to something that we heard in our keynote as well, which is the business requirements. This is probably the bread and butter of any application, right? These are the people that look very laid back in the office, and sometimes they get like a nervous twitch because they know they're about to go speak to business next, but they are so calm and composed. These are your project managers, and your business analysts. And these people focus predominantly on your user requirements. And how important is a user requirement? I'd say that that's pretty important for any application that I'm developing. I need to know what need it is that you need me to fulfill in order to make your life better through code. Because that's at the end of the day what we do. We change lives. Right? We make the world a better place through technology, through writing certain pieces of software. But if I don't know what you require from me, I'm not going to be able to do that. So these are the people that spend a lot of time trying to figure out and simplify. I sometimes have the problem of when I go to my dad and I tell him about my day, or I phone him on the phone and I go, oh my goodness, I wrote this node service and you wouldn't believe that this function wouldn't work, and then all of a sudden I had to call that class, and then he doesn't know what I mean. Right? Or he could open up a website. And I could be like, hey, you should check out this website, and I can see that they use this there, and you can see that they cheated the CSS there a little bit, and he still doesn't know what I mean, right? And I think that's sometimes the problem that we have. Understand your user requirements. Now this is a picture of the full stack, right? So you have, that's a bit blurry down there, sorry. You have your research and your design focused, right? And this is what I mentioned earlier. This is your user experience designers, right? And then you have your design and your front end where that kind of comes together, and that is your UI developer. And then you have your front end and your back end, which is your application developer, right? And some of them are human focused and the other point is application focused. Why can't we put the two together? The Terminator did it and it turned out okay-ish. The robots kind of looked like people. It worked out fine in the end, right? Right. And it worked out okay in the end, right? So find out where in the spectrum you lie. I kind of like the idea of green and pink. I kind of like the idea of being front end. That doesn't mean I can't do back end work. That doesn't mean I can't have an opinion on the design aspect, what the human focus is, what my users need. And that doesn't mean I can't be stingy on the code that I write. Doesn't mean I can't be stingy in saying, I want to code that button because I know what that button needs to do. Right? And I know what you're thinking. Great. So I have my toolbox. I've decided that I want to learn more about the backend and the hardware, and I'm going to have a little bit more respect for the UI guys and whatever the case may be. But how do you actually get started in becoming a full stack developer? I don't know, but I'm willing to learn, right? And one of the things that came to me is becoming a T-shaped developer. I think that's a pretty good place to start. If I can broaden my breadth of knowledge and then focus on the depth of expertise that I want, I'd say that that's a pretty good start. I'm expanding my knowledge base. I'm learning more languages, I'm learning more frameworks, I'm learning more about the hardware. I'm spending more time on figuring out what it is that my users need and what my business requirements are. And I'm branching out into the different languages I want to learn. I want to learn how to do React, so I'm going to put maximum effort into learning everything I can about React until I see something new that's shiny, because I get distracted very easily, right? And I think that's the beauty of it. Becoming a master of something seriously takes a lot of time and effort and blood and sweat and tears. It's not as easy as in school where if you fail a test, you get a redo. Right? But it is as easy in code. You get an error, you have a chance to fix it. And some IDEs are really nice in telling you what the error is, even though it doesn't make sense. Google is there to help, right? I don't know what you guys do in your free time. It's none of my business. I know that in my free time, I like learning new things. I like coding new stuff, and I like breaking stuff. Not the work stuff, though. Not going to break the work stuff. That's probably not going to go too well with the boss on Monday. But I'm going to try and recreate. I'm going to try and find all the bugs I possibly can, and I'm going to spend that time cleaning up code and making sure that the next person that takes it from me understands the idea that I had, so that they too can make the world a better place through the code that they write. Right. And in conclusion, I think there's a little bit of time so that we can have questions as well, is that 4 simple sentences. Now I know what you're thinking. Okay, cool. I'm a T-shaped developer. I know what it means. I'm heading into the full stack. I can tell my boss that, yeah, you know what, we don't have to hire other guys. You can just hire me. I can do all the things. Just keep the coffee coming. Right? No. Because success takes time. We don't have successorometers on our backs. I can't tell whether or not Judy, no offense if there is any Judys in the audience, please, in accounting, has got her sports car that she's always dreamed of when she was 10. I can't tell whether the guy next to me owns his yacht, because that might be their definition of success, right? I can't tell whether or not mine is in the red, orange, or green. And I'm not supposed to. You determine your own success. Society has a definition that's very nice for them. You determine your own success, and you get there at your own pace and at your own time. And in the small things, come on. If you walk into the office and the coffee was cold and there was no milk in the fridge and, you know, the internet is down and all of a sudden your code works, that was a really good day because my code works. I made a small difference. I am journeying into that path into becoming a full-stack developer that's going to better my team and my working environment and deliver for my client. I am making that difference. Right? And I know what you're thinking. People are going to turn to you and be like, yeah, you know what? You're a real jack of all trades and a master of none. That's where you're wrong. My mother didn't name me Jack. Once again, no offense if there's any Jacks in the audience. Right? I never once mentioned that I am a master, because mastery takes time. I need to spend 10,000 hours plus before I can fully understand a framework, or before I can fully understand how a certain language works and know all the bugs that that IDE is going to throw at me. And I get to choose my own tools. Right? I get to pick up my Dora the Explorer backpack and decide where I want to go next. I get to pick any tool out of my Bob the Builder toolbox and say, today I want to learn more about hardware. Or today I want to look at the new frameworks and then have 17 tabs open and sirens in the background because they're constantly changing. But I get to say that, and we are in one of the few careers that allow us to do that. Right? Thank you. Are there any questions? Any questions? None. Wow. Okay. Yes. I can't hear you. I'm just going to get down here. Yes. Sorry. That's fine. Oh, okay. At least I can see you all now. It's less scary down here than what it is up there. I can hear you. I can hear you, yeah.
All right. As much as learning and thinking out of the box and getting out of your comfort zone, those things are recommended, I know that, but all of them, they come handy. And we're in the office, the users are at our back, the testers are giving us pressure. How, or like, what is the secret of overcoming this positive, taking it positive?
I would say passion. That's what gets me through. Yes, the testers are giving me grief because my code isn't working. Yes, I have business requirements down my neck that I really want to scream. Yes, I have a project manager demanding, when is it going to be done? Come boys, come boys, come boys, when is it done? Passion. Pure passion. If I love what I do and I know that what I am doing is making a difference, I don't have to worry about all of that. They are experiencing their own challenges, right? They also have things that they need to get done. Keep calm in those situations and remind them that you are there to make a difference. Right? You're not just there to write code. You're not there to be a minion. You're there to make a difference. And I would say that passion is the one thing that gets me through. Thank you for asking a question. See, I get freebies for people that ask questions, although I can't throw the ball, so I would prefer if you came up and collected it. Yeah.
So when you're developing and researching, is it okay to sometimes decide this doesn't interest me?
Absolutely.
And when do you decide this thing isn't for me? So what are the steps for that? Would you rather pass it on to somebody else because you know it's important? What's the procedure?
Okay, so if I were to research something, okay, whether it's for my job, for what I need to deliver now at this moment in time, or whether or not it's for my projects in my free time, and I come across something and I see this isn't for me, it's not working, this is total Greek to me, I have no idea. But I know of someone that might benefit, right? Because I knowledge share. Right? I go to work and I say, I've learned about this new cool thing, you've got to check it out. Right? And I think a lot of people do that, even developer groups, whatever. And if you're not at any of those, it's okay. Right? If you don't have anyone to pass it along to, that could be a bit of a problem, because if the job still needs to get done, it needs to get done, right? But it's okay to say, I can't do this. And it's okay to take that step back and to still learn it in your own free time, right? Okay. Yes. Sorry, there was like multiple hands. Over there. I see you. I will get to you.
So what I want to know is, as a full stack dev, how do you choose a language that you want to use? For an example, there's Node, there's PHP, and they all pretty much can help you achieve the same goal. So how do you get to say, yeah, this is the actual one that I'm looking for? Especially knowing that in most cases what we write is crude, right? Add, update, delete, and stuff like that. It's almost the same thing. So any language can actually achieve that. So how do you get to choose which one you want?
I think that is the best candy box, right? You get to choose one that you really want to use for the specific thing, right? Remember, it takes time to become a full stack developer. That's not going to happen overnight. Like, that's a 5-year, 10-year plan, right? But if you know that you need to write a CRUD service and you know that you're going to achieve the same thing in PHP as you will in Node, try something new. If you have done 10 CRUD services in PHP, try it in Node. You get to choose, right? You get to try something new. You can see, okay, cool, Express might do this for me, and I know that they have a template and engine to create this CRUD service. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Because now you have the opportunity then to step out of the box, right? And even if you know that multiple platforms that you know or are aware of is going to achieve the same thing, you need to think of what is going to be the best for your team, what is going to be the most understandable for them, because they are still on their journey into becoming full stack developers or whatever their journey might be. So you just need to keep it simple, right? And still understandable for yourself. Okay, you had a question as well.
So, say in a...
I can hear you, so I would repeat it.
Hi, so I'm a consultant, and we get pushed out to clients a couple of times, blah, blah, blah. So I just wanted to know, if you've been in this situation, how do you handle the fact that if you go now to a client and you have like a whole team of seniors and intermediates, and basically, how do you get to a point where you push yourself to a level where you can actually work with these guys and not feel intimidated and just settle for the scraps in terms of the workload that you have to do? I don't know if that makes sense.
So let me just see if I'm understanding correctly. So you've got a lot of seniors and intermediates. You are on your way to a client.
Yeah, and you
then
join the team.
You're new at the team, so you're like the baby.
Yes.
That's a perfect learning opportunity. Be the sponge. Be the annoyance in that team. Make yourself known. Ask all the questions you possibly can, right? When I joined my client, I had no, like I said, I thought they were pixies pushing stuff to the App Store. I didn't know we had people for that, right? And I was so excited to find out that there's a whole department for that. So I get to go to that department and I get to ask questions. And they have to answer me because guess what? I'm the junior. It's the only way I'm going to learn, right? There is never any need to feel intimidated by anyone because they know a little bit more than you. Never, ever feel intimidated. It is a pure learning opportunity, and it's up to you whether or not you are going to use it. Right. Is there any other questions?
Hi, so I'd like to know, what would you say is the next step on your journey, and how would you give advice to other people on finding their next step? Like, there's so many different careers that you can take within IT. You can start as a dev, move to a tech lead, become a BA, or you can become a team lead. Like, where do you plan to go, and like, how would you give people advice to find where they would be best?
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to shape out my T. Okay, I need to know what I want to know before I get to know it, right? Then I know, okay, cool. So becoming a full stack developer is going to take 10 years plus. I have a lot of time in my hands at this point in time, right? It's never too old to learn. So once I've shaped out my T and I've knowledge shared everything I possibly can with my team and I've become an inspiration, I want to run my own team. I want to inspire juniors because hopefully in 3 to 5 years I'm seen as an intermediate or a senior based on working experience, and then I want to have juniors to kind of have that same spark, right? I want to influence them to have that same spark and to say, you know what, I am also making a difference. I also don't know anything, and it is okay for me to go to the Google and find it out. So that's probably my next 3 to 5 year plan. Because you can pick any tool you want out of the toolbox and you can just go berserk. It's brilliant. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Someone had a really good